This airport was finished, lights on, doors locked, and it stayed that way for 9 years. The invitations were printed. The first flight was booked, a Lufthansa jet ready to take off. Thousands of guests were coming to watch the grand opening. Then 26 days before the doors opened, they canceled the whole thing. And nobody could open it again for nearly a decade. By the time Berlin's new airport finally worked, it had cost more than 7 billion euros, 3 times its budget, 14 years to build, and it opened almost empty in the middle of a pandemic. This is the story of how one of the richest, most organized countries on earth built a perfect airport it could not switch on. Picture the promise: a brand new airport for Berlin, a gleaming hub worthy of the German capital, replacing 2 tired old airports, designed to move tens of millions of travelers a year. The most modern airport in Europe. The original budget was around 2 billion euros. The plan was simple: build it in 5 years, open in 2011, done. Now picture paying for it. If you're a German taxpayer, you did. Because this airport wasn't built by a private company taking the risk. It was owned by the public, the city of Berlin, the surrounding state, and the federal government. Your money. And every year it didn't open, that bill grew and grew and grew. You waited 9 extra years for an airport that was, by all appearances, already built, standing there, finished, lights on, and completely useless. How does that even happen? That's what we're going to follow. And we're not guessing. The German parliament set up a formal committee of inquiry to work out exactly how this went so wrong, who decided what, and when they knew. Years of testimony and documents. Everything you're about to hear is on the public record. Let's start with the day it all fell apart. It's 2012. The airport is ready, or so everyone thinks. The grand opening is set for June. Invitations are out. A Lufthansa A380 is booked to make the first flight. The whole region is preparing for a party. Then, 26 days before, the people in charge make an announcement. The airport cannot open. Not now. Maybe not for a long time. The reason? The fire safety system didn't work. Specifically, the smoke extraction system. The thing that's supposed to pull smoke out of the building if there's a fire. It was a monster of a design, so complex and so badly built that it couldn't pass its safety test. In a real fire, it couldn't guarantee it would clear the smoke. And without that, no inspector on Earth will let you fill a building with thousands of people. Here's the part that should make your jaw drop. The man who designed that fire safety system turned out not to be a qualified engineer at all. His business cards said engineer. On paper, he was trained as a technical draftsman. They had handed one of the most critical safety systems in the entire airport to someone who wasn't licensed to design it. The takeaway is brutal and simple. On a project this big, nobody checked the basics. They were so busy building that no one stopped to ask whether the person designing the life safety system was actually allowed to. And once they started looking closely, the floodgates opened. Because the smoke system was just the beginning. Once inspectors really got into the building, they found defects everywhere. By one count, around 100,000 separate faults. Cables laid wrong, sometimes with no documentation at all, so no one even knew what connected to what. Doors that wouldn't open automatically. Escalators that were the wrong size. Thousands of fire extinguishers and smoke detectors installed incorrectly. A later audit found that kilometers of cabling had to be ripped out and replaced. Walls had to be opened up. Whole systems rebuilt from scratch, inside a building that was supposedly finished. And the opening date? It got pushed back again, and again. In total, the airport announced 6 different opening dates before it actually opened. 6. Each one came, each one was missed. The takeaway here is the expensive one. When you rush to declare something finished before it's truly checked, you don't save time. You just discover the problems later, when they cost 10 times more to fix. But here's the detail that really captures how absurd it got. The airport sat there, fully built, for years, empty. And a building that big doesn't just wait quietly, it has to be kept alive. Lights running, air moving, systems powered. They even ran empty trains through the underground station, just to stop it rotting underground. And things started to die of old age before a single passenger ever arrived. At one point, around 750 display screens, the flight information boards, had to be replaced. Why? Because they'd been switched on for 6 years, waiting, and simply wore out. The airport was aging faster than it was opening. Think about that. You're paying to maintain a giant airport that earns nothing. No tickets, no flights, no shops. Just an enormous bill every single day for a building that does nothing but wait. The lesson runs through every story on this channel. A failed megaproject doesn't just cost what it costs to build, it keeps costing. Every day it sits there, broken, doing nothing. So let's add it all up. A budget of around 2 billion euros became a final bill of more than 7 billion. Construction that was meant to take 5 years took 14. An airport planned to open in 2011 opened in October 2020, 9 years late. And when it finally opened, the world had changed. A pandemic had grounded air travel. The airport that was designed to overflow with tens of millions of passengers opened nearly silent. The grand hub arrived just in time for empty skies. The people who paid? Not the planners who got it wrong, not the managers who came and went, the public. German taxpayers carried a bill that tripled for an airport that became a national embarrassment, a country famous for engineering, undone by its own flagship project. And the pattern is the same one we keep seeing. Rush the announcement, skip the checks, ignore the warnings until something fails the test. Then watch the public pick up the tab year after year after year. So, an airport that was ready to open in 2012, invitations printed, first flight booked, canceled 26 days before the doors opened, because no one could prove the smoke would clear in a fire. It stayed shut for 9 more years. It cost more than 3 times its budget, and it opened to almost no one. Billions promised, billions gone. And Berlin is not alone. All over the world, governments have built things that swallowed fortunes and delivered nothing. Airports with no planes, trains that ran for weeks, nuclear plants that bankrupted entire planes. We're working through every one of them. So if you want the next story, subscribe. Because the money is always promised, and the question is always the same. Where did it go?